So in our last discussion, we were talking about user acceptance testing, right? But let's say this user acceptance testing went fine, and we have delivered the product now. Post which, probably due to some or the other reasons which we'll discuss in the coming slides, we identify that there is a need of rectifying some issues or adding some functionalities. Now to ensure that this reworking of the product, or maybe you can say that or rectifying some errors in the product, or maybe post adding some functionalities, in order to ensure that whatever changes we have made is not bringing any adverse impact on the overall working of the application, we prefer to go ahead with a testing strategy which is called as your regression testing. Right, so when your software regresses, then we go ahead with regression testing. It's a way to ensure that no adverse impacts are there in overall functioning of the application post adding any functionality, or post adding or post rectifying some issues. Now before that, let's understand what basically your software maintenance is. From the term itself, you might have got an idea that we are now dealing with maintenance, right? We are bringing some changes, we are maintaining it, maintaining for getting rid of some previous problems, or maintaining for adding some new functionalities, right? Your car goes for a regular maintenance, right? Just to check that overall working is fine, or if there are some issues, so let's get rid of it. And what the mechanic does, after repairing, mechanic goes for a trial to ensure that whatever he has done is has resulted into a fully functional or maybe an improved version of the product. Similarly, in case of software, what we do is we maintain it, then we try to get the assurance that yes, the overall functioning is either same or improved, or at least has not brought any adverse impact on the overall functioning. Now let's formally see what basically your software maintenance is. So one of the common perception is that maintenance is like only dealing with fixing defects. And one of the study indicates that the majority, like over 80% of the maintenance effort is used for non-corrective actions, right? This was given by Vygotsky, right, in 1997. So these notes I have added in your footnotes as well, so you can go through those footnotes in the slides. Right, so what it says is that it's not only the correction, but it's all about the non-corrective actions as well. So this perception is perpetuated by users submitting problem reports that in reality are functionality enhancement to the system. All of a sudden, let's say I have RBI comes up with a new income tax slab, so your ITR filling application will go under maintenance, right? And post making it live, obviously they are going to test it. So your software maintenance in software engineering is the modification of a software product post delivery, right? That means it has been delivered, it has been deployed, right? And the idea is to correct the faults. The idea is to improve the performance or some other attributes. So we have some variety of it. One is your corrective maintenance, another one is your adaptive maintenance, then we have perfective maintenance, and lastly we have preventive maintenance as well, right? So we are going to cover all these four categories in the next few slides. So what we have is, we have like corrective maintenance, that means changes made to correct a software product or system after the failure has been observed. Right, we have observed the failure and we are going to bring some changes in order to correct the software product. And this is usually done after a general release. Next one is your corrective maintenance. So basically, it is impractical to exhaustively test a large software system. So it is reasonable to assume that any large system will have errors, right? What we are saying is it's impractical to exhaustively test the large software system. So a large system will have some or the other errors. Testing should be thorough for common cases, so errors are likely to be obscure. Right, so basically we are looking for some common test cases, we are testing the things. So there are some errors which will always be undiscovered, right? The testers might not be able to discover those errors. So in that case, post deployment we get to know and we go for the corrective maintenance part. Next is your adaptive maintenance. So basically the changes made to achieve continuing compatibility with the target environment or the other system or the product, right? So it's like we are trying to adapt, right? Product is working fine, but in order to adapt with, let's say, some major changes, it can be due to, let's say, from IP compatibility from IPv4 to IPv6, right? So we're going to adapt those things. Systems basically, don't function in isolation. And typically they may interact with your operating system, your DBMS, your graphical user interfaces, network protocols, and other external software packages. It can be, your payment gateways, and along with that, we can also have some various hardware platforms. So in the IT industry, any or all type of these may change over a very short period, typically which is 6 months, right? So that's why we keep on going for adaptive maintenance in order to adopt, let the product adapt this changing environment or maybe the external agents. External agents means external software agents here I'm referring to. Now next is in case of perfective maintenance, basically the changes made, or you can say designed to improve or add capabilities. From the title itself, right, we are trying to achieve perfection, right? So we are adding something, we are making some changes in order to improve the capabilities. So users, the reason why we go ahead with this, because the users and marketers are never satisfied, right? They want some extra, they want some more improvement, right? And even if a system is wildly successful, someone will want new or enhanced features added to it. Sometimes there will also be impetus to alter the way a certain component of the system works or its interface, right? Any change. Now all of a sudden, let's say Amazon may plan to bring some changes to the user interface, right? So in that case, just in order to add or increase the user friendliness, right? In that case also I need to go ahead with perfective maintenance. Lastly, we have preventive maintenance, where the changes are made to increase the robustness, right, and maintainability, portability, and the other features. Increasing software maintainability or reliability to prevent the problems in future, right? It's a preventive measure, post which we go for preventive maintenance. We take some preventive measures, and then we go for preventive maintenance. Sometimes changes are needed for entirely internal reasons, and such changes have no direct effect on the users, but to lay the groundwork for easier maintenance in the future, right? If we are planning to, let's say Y2K was something which was troubling the entire IT industry, so well in advance they brought some changes and they were happy with it. Alternatively, such changes may improve the reliability or they provide a better basis for future development. Right, so this becomes your preventive maintenance. Next is your structured versus unstructured maintenance. So unstructured maintenance basically waits straight into the source code and makes changes based on that alone. So directly without any background work, so unstructured. Your structured maintenance examines and modifies the original design and then reworks the code to match it. So clearly your structured maintenance is more reliable and usually a more efficient process as well. But unfortunately it's not always possible. So now let's talk about software maintainability, right? So the ease with which your software can be understood, corrected, adapted or enhanced is something which is called as your software maintainability. I took this definition from Pressman. Enhanced by good initial design and understandable software structure. Comprehensive and accurate documentation, so including your design documentation obviously. Then we have like use of standards for your design, language, coding and other stuff. Plus your availability of extensive test cases as well. So there are several problems associated with maintenance as well. So some of the typical problems with maintenance are like, first of all, like inadequate documentation. That's something which is very important and it's like broadly identified. So improper or inadequate documentation of the software evaluation, inadequate documentation of the software design and structure. Then we have like loss of cultural knowledge of software due to staff turnover, right? The attrition rate being one of the concern with the entire IT industry, and that's, you know, that also adds problem to your software maintenance as well. Then lack of allowance for change in the original design, and maintenance is like something which is unglamorous and maybe viewed as a punishment task, right? If you ask me that I have to read someone else's code, so that becomes, you know, obviously troublesome for me. There are some side effects of the maintenance. So any error or the undesirable behavior that occurs as a result of modification to a system. So we have like coding side effect, we have data side effect, then we have your documentation side effect as well. So coding side effect, right? You can say inadvertent removal of the vital code, changes in the semantics of the code, and you can also expect some of the unexpected changes in your execution path. Then we have like data side effect, where change in the data structures which can render the older data or the invalid or incomplete data, changes in the global constants and changes in the ranges, data ranges. These things can be considered as your maintenance side effect. Yeah, of course, documentation side effect, right? So let's say if I forget to document or code, or if I forget to document the data structure changes, if I forget to document the changes which are not reflected in the user manuals or maybe some of the interfaces, so that can be, you know, another point where that becomes a headache kind of thing. So this was all about the discussion we had on maintenance. Now let's talk about your basic regression testing, where our main focus is. So system is set to regress if your modified component fails, right? We started our discussion with this. A new component causes failures in the unchanged components, and that can be by generating some or the other side effects, right? So basically we go ahead with regression testing because it is done to ensure that the sometimes enhancement and sometimes defects fixation made to the actual software product works properly, and overall it does not affect the existing functionality. So this can also be called as selective retesting, right? Because everything will be same, right, from the previous one until unless some major new functionality has been added. Even if suppose the major new functionality has been added, then also the test cases or the test data which will be firing will be from the previous set of test dumps which are available with us. Then your regression, okay, I took this definition from the IEEE Software Engineering Glossary, IEEE 83. So your regression testing is basically the selective retesting of the system or the components in order to verify that modifications have not caused any unintended effects and that the system or the component still complies with your specified requirements. Right. So now the point arises, what basically is the purpose of this regression testing? So the changes, or you can call it some additions made to the software product, works as designed or not. The changes or additions to do not break something that was already working fine and should continue to work, right? Because if suppose everything was working fine, we brought some changes and the previously working part is not functioning properly now, so that's something which is a major cause of concern. Then we have like the bug fixes do not create any side effects, right? That's another major cause of concern. Now there are two categories or two types of regression testing. One is your regular regression testing, another one is your final regression testing. See, one thing to note is that all the strategies will be under the same umbrella, which was your black box and white box. So which that remains the same as it is, right? So you, in case of your regular regression testing, this is done between the test cycles to ensure that the defect fixes that are done and the functionalities that were working with the earlier test cycle continues to work, right? And your regular regression testing can use more than one product build for the test cases to be executed, because right, every build will have something in common, right? So we can go ahead with the reusability kind of thing. And lastly, what we have is something which is called as your final regression testing. So since it is final, so recall my previous discussion about verification and validation. Now we are going to validate. So this is done to validate the final build just before the release, and your configuration management manager will deliver the final build. Right. So what we have is, we in case of regression testing, we have like regular regression and final regression. What we do, select the retesting to ensure defect fixes works and there isn't any side effect. And defect creeps in due to changes, that's why we go ahead with this. Defect fixes may cause some existing functionalities to fail. Now the next question is like, when to go ahead with regression testing? When set of defects fixes arrive after formal testing for the completed areas and performed in all the test phases. So when is regression testing done? One is your for the software maintenance, for the corrective, adaptive and preventive maintenance, and then we have like rapid iterative development, then we have like first step of integration, and lastly we have compatibility assessment and benchmarking. In addition to this, your regression testing is done in some of the following situations where a reasonable amount of initial testing is already carried out and a good number of defects have been fixed, and defect fixes that can produce side effects are taken care of. So these are various levels where regression testing is done. So at the unit level, possible, because if suppose I am considering unit as a small module, right, then it can be done for the reintegration, regression testing at the functional level, and your regression testing at the systems level. Now the people involved, that means who all are performing this software regression. So developers, regression testing at the unit level or integration, test engineers, so regression testing at the functional level, and QA and test engineers, quality analysts, so regression testing at the system level. So this is the diagram where we used to see the test cycles, right? What we see is that each time we come across with bugs, we go ahead with bug fixing and we come up with a build and we go for the test cycle, regression test cycle, then test cycle 2, we have then regression 2, and so on and so forth, and ultimately the final regression takes place. So the entire software regression process starts with your software change analysis, where we understand and analyze various software changes. Then we look for software change impact analysis. That means what all changes are going to bring what all impacts. So where we understand and analyze the software change impacts. Then we define regression test strategy and criteria. Then we define, select and reuse test cases to form a regression test suite. We perform retest at different levels. So retesting at unit level, at integration level, at function level, and at system level. Then we report and analyze the regression test results as well. So what we do is the entire software regression process is like software change analysis, software change impact analysis, defining the regression test strategy, building the regression test suite, running the regression test at different levels, and reporting the retest results. So some of the major problems in software regression testing is like how to identify the software changes in a systematic way, because requirement specification changes are there, design specification changes are there, implementation changes, then we have like user manual changes, then we have like environment or technology changes, and your test changes are also there. Some of the major problems in your software regression testing are like how to identify software change impact in your systematic way, right? That means requirements impacts, design impacts, implementation impacts, user impact, and your test impact. Then some of the major regression testing problems, like how to use the systematic method or tool to identify the changed software parts, right? What all things are changed. How to use a systematic method or tool to identify software change impacts. How to use a systematic method or tool to identify affected software test cases. Then how to reduce the test suites. How to select the test cases in the test suites. Some of the major challenges in software regression testing is like how to minimize the retesting effort and achieve the adequate testing coverages as well. So this was all about your regression testing. These are a list of some of the references which I've used.